What's up in War Eagle War Report family? It's your guy Ike Jones right here. Another morning drop. We're talking this morning about SEC Media Days. Which Auburn Tigers do we feel should be representing down there in Nashville? Y'all know how we do right here, War Report style. Drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop right here. Another Friday. Almost the end of June 30th, man. RogueShop.com sponsored morning drop. Y'all know how we do right here, man. You got Ike Jones, Mike G in the place to be. Talking a little Auburn football. SEC Media Days coming up in less than a month, a couple of weeks away. And have yet to hear an announcement, but we anticipate sometime in the next week or so that we're going to hear from Coach Hugh Freeze on which Auburn Tigers will be representing in Nashville for SEC Media Days.
Yeah, there's a little bit of drama around this, right? Like, probably not taking a quarterback. And we saw lots of that at last Media Days, right? Like, you know, people took quarterbacks last year, but probably not taking a quarterback.
We didn't take a quarterback last year.
Yeah, right, definitely. But probably not taking a quarterback. Not taking the number one running back, the likely number one running back for obvious reasons. And, you know, it boils down to, like, who do you take? Well, offensively, I personally think that Luke Deal is a slam dunk to take to media.
Okay, Luke Deal, good one.
I think that he would be
friend of the program.
Yeah, I think he would be a great representative. He's going to be a leader on this team in that tight end room, along with Rafaldo Fairweather. Just a fantastic ambassador for Auburn football and Auburn sports in general. So I think that number one on my list is Luke Deal. Luke Deal's got to go.
Okay,
he's got to go.
Luke Deal's a good choice.
Second on my list. And I went back and forth about this one, but you have to take, when you go to media days, you need to take the best players.
Okay.
So you need to take good representatives, but you need to take the best players. And I think one of the undisputed best players on all of the team is DJ James.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You got a player who is going to be all SEC at anything. You got to take him to media days, man. You have to let him go and spread his stuff, get him prepared, for media days and what to say and how to do things there. It's going to be a little bit of a circus for a lot of these guys if it's their first media days, if they've never been chosen for this. But I think DJ James is fantastic, would be a good representative. I mean, you got to take your best players. You have to take your best players. You need somebody who's the best, right? If you can't take Jarquez Hunter, you need to take DJ James. Third on my list, you got to take somebody, again, I'm leaning back toward leadership. I think you got to take Jason Jones.
Okay.
I think Jason Jones has to be a representative of Auburn football at SEC Media Days this year. I listened to him in the spring, Ike, talking after the spring game, after practices, talking about things that they need to do. I think that he has emerged as an unquestioned vocal leader on that defensive line and in that on defense in general. And I think that a lot of guys look to him for leadership right now. I think that you need to send him to media days to represent you. Certainly, I think that he will be a great representative. And you've got to, let him get out there and get that experience, man. If he's going to lead in the fall, let him start at media days. Let him get a taste of what that's like being in front of the media, answering the tough questions, right? And representing his university at a high level. So those are my three. I mean, I want to hear what you hear about my three, but I have some alternates I want to talk about after I hear what you got to say.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with those three that you put out there. But you know what? What I do want people to do is share this video, right?
Yeah.
So share the video. Let's get some other people involved in this conversation. I've seen the conversation. We've had it in part in some of the other, because people have been asking us, have they announced it? Who do we think? Well, this is our definitive conversation around it. Share the video so we can get some more people involved in this. If you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on podcast, then go ahead and do the necessary, which is make sure that you put your notifications on and subscribe there. And give us a 5-star review on the podcast, man. We need more people out there saying the War Report is doing a fantastic job on the podcast side. So make sure you get that in. But back to the conversation as far as who I think, or I want to talk about Mike G's list, right? So Mike G says Luke Deal, DJ James, and Jason Jones need to be representing Auburn in SEC Media Days in Nashville. I don't have a problem with your list. I think these are all three worthy candidates. Luke Deal is the only of those three, if we're being clear, that has been here his entire collegiate career, has been an ambassador for Auburn on a lot of fronts in just the way that he's shown up in the Auburn community. So I don't have a problem with Luke Deal representing Auburn at SEC Media Days. We've had him on the program a couple of times. He even came to a live stream once for us, man. And so I know that he knows how to handle himself in front of a camera. I know that he's well-spoken. I do know that he's going to get playing time, right? Like, he's not just some guy that's going to get buried on the bench that won't ever see the field. And he has some leadership in that locker room as being a senior upperclassman on that team. So, yeah, I can get behind the idea of Luke Deal. He was not on my list. So let me be clear. After saying all of those wonderful things about him, he's not on my list of people who I had. But I do not have a problem with Luke Deal being a guy that you take to SEC Media Days. Okay. I absolutely do think that DJ James is, to your point, a star on this team, a guy who, regardless of what you hear us talk about with this PFF list, where he wasn't listed as one of the top 10 returning or draft eligible defensive backs and all those things, we made the case why we think that that's absolutely bogus. And I still think that that's absolutely bogus. DJ James is going to be one of the better defenders in all of college football, not just the SEC. So you absolutely need to have DJ James present if you're trying to take your star players there. Did not yet, I apologize to you, Mike G, and those over there On to Victory, have not watched the On to Victory segment with DJ James as of yet in full. I saw
great kid, man.
I saw a piece of it. So as far as his ability to be eloquent in front of a camera and represent well, the pieces I've seen of him talking, I don't have a problem with him getting up there and answering questions.
You're gonna have to prepare him. You're gonna have to prepare them, but I think that's it of all these kids, man. Like, it's such a circus. I don't know that anybody is ready for it unless you've done it before.
Yeah. Don't necessarily have an issue with that. And then Jason Jones, the person who I absolutely had on my list that is on your list, Jason Jones. I think Jason Jones is going to play a lot of snaps for Auburn this year. I've spoken with Jason Jones on multiple occasions, very well spoken, seen him talk to other media personalities, very well spoken. He's going to represent in every single way, both on the field and doing dynamic things when we get into the season, and off the field as being a really just easy person to talk to. He's going to answer questions honestly. He's going to do it with eloquence. I like Jason Jones as being somebody who you get in there and allow him to be a representative for Auburn at Media Days. No problem with any of the three that you named.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm going to give an alternate here.
Okay.
We'll give an alternate because you got two defensive guys and you got an offensive guy. And, I feel like on offense, there's more in flux. So we lean toward defensive guys in those position groups being a little bit more solid. So I got a couple alternates.
Okay.
I think it's possible that you take Wesley Steiner.
Okay.
You possibly take Wesley Steiner and or Tate Johnson.
Okay.
I think that getting an offensive lineman in there would be a great, would be great for the team. Now, why Tate Johnson? Hugh Freeze raved about Tate Johnson earlier in the spring. Talked about being a dependable guy, about him also being a leader, and about how he stepped up. And I think that, in year one, when a lot will be in flux, where you have to figure out a lot through the first third of the season, you take guys who will be, rock solid mainstays in terms of how things are done in practice, in the classroom, on and off the field. And I think that's Tate Johnson.
Okay.
Right. You take guys who can echo what your team culture is. Right. And who you are and who you are as a coach. Somebody who can, you know what I mean? Who can exude who you are as a coach, because right now, that's what people want to know.
Yeah. What kind of culture you're setting up? What is the program going to look like under you?
Listen, man, Hugh Freeze came in with some baggage.
Yeah.
Right. So I think people will have more questions about him as a coach than they will about this team, how this team is going to do.
Oh, yeah. I listen, the vast majority, I think, of what's going to happen as far Here's the thing that people have to remember about SEC Media Days. This isn't, the media pool at the Auburn facility, right? Like, these are media personalities from all over the Southeast, some national media personalities coming in, and they're going to want to come in and ask questions that will allow them. Mike G and I talked about this yesterday. Media come into these situations having stories, and I hate using the word narrative because people use the word narrative a lot, and I think that they use it incorrectly. In this scenario, there is a very definitive story that they want to come out of SEC Media Days being able to tell, right? Whether it is reinforced by their initial assumptions or it is absolutely eradicated by what happens. They're going to come in and say, I'm going to ask the coaches about this particular thing because I need to write a story about this thing. Or I need to go tell a story about this thing, right? And so what's going to happen in the instance of Coach Hugh Freeze, if you've not had the opportunity to talk to him, you're absolutely going to want to ask him about all of the stuff surrounding his hire. It's going to happen. People are going to ask about it. There's no way of him getting around it. He can come out there and give his initial address and say, who was it last year? Somebody came in and and Coach Harsin did this for sure, but it was somebody else who was like, I'm going to say this one time and I don't want to hear about it again. They did their whole thing and
it was Goodman. It was Goodman.
Like, literally the second question that got asked was about the thing he just said, I'm not addressing this anymore, right? And so it doesn't matter because, again, they want to be on camera asking the question, and then they want to be able to go back and write their article or say whatever they want to say on their radio show. It's going to happen. It's absolutely a thing. And so with all of that, to your point,
he needs to be prepared.
Not just his preparation, but the preparation of the players, because the players are going to get asked these same questions. They're going to be asked, hey, what do you feel about this thing with your coach? How did this it's going to be a thing, and they need to, shout out to Kirk Sampson, SID for Auburn Athletics.
Yeah, I got Kirk.
He and his team are going to have to get these kids prepared to go in here in front of the firing squad. It's going to be a new situation for them. But, yeah, to your point, Tate Johnson, I think, is a guy who exudes the type of working behavior, all of the things that you want to see as a representative for your university. I think Tate Johnson embodies that. And so he's a guy who I would agree with would be a good representative for Auburn University.
I think it's tough because you have so many transfers. You got so many transfers, right? Like, and you're trying to establish, you're trying to project what the culture is on this team, right? And you want guys who can go out there and speak to that and speak to how things are being done now that you are the head coach. I think you made a great point about how last year Harsin came out and said, listen, I'm going to address this once. They attacked me. It didn't work, right? I'm still here. Right, I'm standing in front of you, right? And then the next question was, well, how did you feel about them attacking you, right? And it was kind of dumb. Me personally, I get it. Everybody's trying to get their soundbite. I think it's lazy journalism. Personally, I think that if you cannot ask a pertinent and important question without asking a salacious one, you are intellectually lazy.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to learn how to do your job better. But the idea here is that these guys need to be prepared for that, like you said, because it's coming. Right. Now, not everybody, shout out to us, is going to be like us and ask the important questions that fans actually want to know, man, and stay away from the stuff that, and I'm not, it's not that we can't ask them hard questions, like.
Yeah. To your point, there's a difference between hard and salacious, right? Like, you can ask them a difficult question without being ill-intentioned in the way that you present it.
Yeah, right. And so we plan to go out there and represent the War Report and the Auburn media in a way that is exemplary, right? And get the answers to the questions that fans actually want to know, and actually, dare I even say, aid these kids on their journey to becoming leaders by asking them questions that you should ask of a leader. Right? And not as somebody who is the target of a tabloid.
Right.
So it's going to be who you pick to go is important, right? And the questions that we ask is important. So our questions are just as important as their answers.
Yeah.
And so everybody has a job to do at media days, man. We plan to go and do it. We're going to be there all week. We're one of the few media outlets that are there all week. I will say, covering all of it, covering things that aren't necessarily Auburn, but will be related to Auburn later in the season.
Right.
That's why we go all week, people. That's why we spend the time and the money and the resources to be at SEC and be in Nashville all week. So I just think that, it's one of those things that, you and I, we did it last year. This year, we're going to have a close eye on the guys that they're going to be taking. And then we're going to be prepared to ask these guys questions that, they can answer to help people understand what direction Hugh Freeze is taking this program. Now, I think that's the biggest thing that's got to come out of media days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So before we get over here to the comments, I haven't named who my three were. I've told you if I agree with Mike on some of the three that I had in mind. I had Tate Johnson on my list because I think it's important to prioritize leadership in the locker room as the vocal leaders out there in front of the media, whether they're going to be stars on the team or not. I don't know what the starting role is going to be for Tate Johnson. I don't know what his level of snaps is going to be. I just think he's going to be a really worthy representative. I think Jason Jones, again, is going to be a guy that is going to be an exemplary leader, a guy that you want to put out on the forefront.
Yeah.
The third guy is the one that I was struggling with a lot. And I think, when it's all said and done, I've thought about this like 50 times because I initially was like, don't do a transfer, don't do a transfer, don't do a transfer. But I've changed my mind on that. And I think Elijah McAllister would be my third person.
Ooh, okay.
I think Elijah McAllister would be my third person just because he is a guy who I feel is going to get some solid snaps. I think that he's already done a really good job of being out there as a humanitarian in not just the Auburn community, but nationally.
Okay.
And he also is someone who very well spoken, but familiar with the SEC, right? So it's not as if the SEC landscape is going to be unfamiliar for him. Those are the three that I would put out there: Jason Jones, Elijah McAllister, and Tate Johnson.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, all right. So we're going to take a quick
McAllister, man.
man.
Ooh, man. I don't know if I've heard Elijah talk.
I have, and he speaks well.
He speaks well. Okay, all right. Yeah. I'm with that. I like that. I like that pick. I think it's a spicy pick. I think Elijah is a spicy pick.
Anyway, we'll take a quick break right here. Make sure that you guys head over to rogueshop.com. Let me not do them any disservice. We hadn't hit July 6th yet. So code report 20 is still active. Make sure that you head over there. They have a lot of great new stuff over there that you all can take advantage of through July 6th, 20% off of all edibles at rogueshop.com. 2 new edibles, the live rosin. Two new edibles are live. The rosin 25 milligram gummies, all natural, no solvents, and their strongest gummies are now available over there. Make sure you use code RAPPORT20. You get 20% off of that purchase. We're going to get over here to the comment section, though, and see what people are pontificating on this lovely Friday morning in regards to SEC Media Days, hoping to get some actual names be announced here by Coach Hugh Freeze and the staff very soon. We've given you our thoughts. We want to know your thoughts. We'll get it jumped off with Haley, who says Jason Jones definitely should be on the list.
Spell Jason right, Haley.
Yeah, listen, I don't know if John Brannon is down there being the police on people's names in the comment section, but it is JAYSON for Jason Jones, for those of you who do not know. But Jason Jones, I think a lot of people agree would be a good representative here. Daniel Moultrie says, can we just take coaches? Let's just take Caddy, Trevon, and Zach.
Daniel, get out of here. Take coaches.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing, but hey, they would be good representative of the university for sure, all being former players. But I don't think that's going to work that way. But Daniel Owens comes back in and says, DJ, speaking of DJ James, Jones, as in Jason Jones, and Luke Deal.
I'm telling you, man, Luke has to go.
TK agrees with Jason Jones being very well spoken out here. Jeremy Locke says, let's bring Brian Battie, Justin Rogers, and DJ James, 2 transfers on the list there.
Battie and Rogers.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like those picks. Both those guys are going to play a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Both of
I
those guys
agree.
can play a lot.
We'll get a lot of play time out of both of those guys. A lot of snaps being had between the group of three that you have there. I don't know how I feel about 2 transfers being on the list of people that are taken, but there was another transfer who I had in mind in Dylan Wade that I thought could do a really good job at SEC Media Days. But I don't know. I feel as if number one, if it is a transfer, I have to feel like they have a lot of experience being in front of cameras and they're going to be a good representative. I thought long and hard about that whole situation with Elijah McAllister, man. I really did. But ultimately, I felt like it would be a good option. Daniel Owen jumps back in with all our past issues on O-line. Maybe we take an offensive lineman, which is, Tate Johnson. Jeremiah Wright. Do you think Jeremiah Wright does good in that type of situation?
Yeah, right. Or Avery Jones, maybe.
Another transfer, but I think Avery Jones could do a good job.
Man, it was 9 transfers.
Yeah. I mean, besides Jeremiah and Tate, right? Like, I don't know that any of the incumbent, we just had another guy transfer out from that offensive line.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I don't know that there's a bunch of options there for people who have been here for a while in the offensive line room. B. Will's forehead, unfortunately, says he got COVID for the second time on Wednesday. Sorry to hear that. I had it twice as well, and it was terrible both times. Heading to the beach tomorrow with COVID? Are you over COVID? And now you're going to the beach after? You need some clarification.
Is it a remote beach? Go out there to be alone.
Hoping the War Report podcast network and that warm sun helps me feel better.
Yeah, for sure.
Listen, man, for those of you who don't know, we just recently announced the inception of the War Report podcast network. Definitely shouts out to the guys who have entrusted us to help take them a little further in their careers with the War Report podcast network. We appreciate the folks at the College Loop and the folks over there at Uptempo Podcast. Lawrence Johnson, Robinson. Lawrence Johnson, thinking about the daggone player. Luke Deal, Jalen Simpson, a name we have not heard, and Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah, Jeremiah Wright's interesting.
You're on mute there, Mike. For some reason, I don't have the sound.
No, I don't know what's going on there. I'll come back.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, that's an interesting trio there because I think I have not heard the name Jalen Simpson in regards to media stuff very much. I'm trying to think, have I even heard Jalen Simpson talk? Nope, still don't have any sound for you for some reason. I don't know if I've even heard Jalen Simpson talk. That's an interesting take right there. Jeremiah Wright, we just mentioned here a minute ago. Mike G is going to get his sound together and hop back in, but I don't know. Jalen Simpson's an interesting one for sure. Oh, they said that they hear you. I just couldn't hear you for some reason. So.
Okay. All right,
cool. Something happening on our end here, but all good. We're still in here. So go ahead, Mike. Talk. So what were you saying about Jalen Simpson?
Jalen Simpson, I think, is going to be interesting. It was an interesting pick. Yeah. Now, this is a guy who definitely was a leader, of sorts, right? He's been on the team for a while. But again, this is a new culture. I think this is a new culture. This is a new defense. This is a new defensive coordinator. I think it's going to be interesting to see if they take a guy like Jalen. I don't have anything against Jalen. I think there are better picks for this particular task.
Yeah.
Just my thoughts.
No problems with that. Daniel Moultrie jumps back in. DJ James, Rivaldo Fairweather, someone we had not mentioned, who, again, well-spoken young man. And Alex McPherson, the kicker. All right. After 10 years of the Carlson kicking dynasty, it's time to introduce the world to our new kicking king, Alex McPherson. I like where you're going with that one, Daniel.
Is he, though?
I think he's going to kick the field goals for this team. You don't think he's going to be the field goal kicker? He's got the leg. He's got the confidence.
All right. I'm just saying. Like, I don't think he wins kickoff duties.
Oh, yeah. I don't think he's going to be a kickoff guy.
I don't think he wins kickoff duties. So, yeah.
Which, I mean, listen, we probably should not have had Anders Carlson doing kickoff duties last year.
Yeah. So. It can't be a kick dynasty unless you do both, though, right? Like, so.
As long as he's making field goals, bro, I don't care, man. Somebody else do kickoffs.
I don't want him kicking them out of bounds.
Man.
We know what happens when them kickoffs don't go out of bounds.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely I think that there will be a split of those duties with this team coming up. But yeah. Valencia Jackson says, I think they need to bring the War Report in to prepare them for that day. So media training with the War Report. You heard it right here first from Valencia. Let us come in there and pepper them with questions before they hit SEC Media Days so that they can be prepared to go to Nashville. I like this idea. We're going to make sure that we put this forward. Kirk, if you're watching, you heard it here. It wasn't us.
Media Days training session with the War Report. Yeah.
It wasn't us. We didn't say it. We're just telling you someone else thinks it's a good idea, and we agree with that. Kirk Sampson, I'm gonna clip this portion and I'm gonna tag you on Twitter. Make sure you see this. I don't know if I'm gonna do all that, but I will make sure that Kirk sees that this was an idea put forward, and we think it's a great idea. The Walker Show says Dylan Wade, Jason Jones, Elijah McAllister. Again, 2 transfers on that list. I like all 3 gentlemen. I just don't know if I want 2 of the 3 to be transfers. In my opinion, it's not my decision, but I just don't know if 2 of the 3 should be transfers. But all 3 good names to throw up there. Don't have a problem with those names at all. Let's see. New Tiger 3 says it doesn't have to be a starter, just someone who will represent the program well. I agree with that. I agree. All right. Alex Wilson jumps in here with the late super chat, and we appreciate you doing the super chat stuff here. Says, what's going on with RB1? Not seeing anything incriminating.
Yeah, they're keeping it quiet. Right? Listen, I mean, we may not hear much.
Listen, it's going to get asked at Media Days. This is a question they need to be prepared with an answer for when it comes to SEC Media Days.
Yeah, we're not going to hear much. I think the official stance is that we're dealing with it internally.
Yeah,
and
that's the only thing that they've said as far as a public statement from the university is that they're dealing with it internally and they're continuing their investigation, blah, blah, blah. And they said that there have been suspensions, right, as far as I know.
But once it comes to a head, you still may not hear much. And I need people to be prepared for that too. It may be like, hey, we were dealing with it internally. We dealt with it. We've moved on.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I expect the official line to be. I would not anticipate getting a long, drawn-out explanation over what happened the last few months. I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
And for a lot of reasons. Not necessarily to protect players, but maybe to protect other parties involved.
Yeah. Listen, it's a sensitive situation, man. And I think everybody just needs to have patience with that process. I know we as fans of the team want to know, hey, what's going on? Why haven't they had? But I trust that they're going to handle that situation in the appropriate way. And I also trust that we've got enough depth in that running back room that if we don't have it figured out in the time frame that we as fans would like, that we're still going to be okay in the running back room. So looking forward to seeing all of those young men, Brian Battie, Damari Austin, Sean Jackson, Cobb, that wonderful list of running backs that we have go out there and show out, even if we don't get the resolution that we want by the time game 1 comes around. So don't have any details on it. And we're awaiting details just like you are.
Yep.
Daniel Owen jumps back in with a chat and says, do we need to take a transfer with us to talk about the new guys coming in and how they are adapting?
Maybe. I mean, that's a thought. That's a thought.
It's a thought, but see, here's the thing again. The question. So you have to think about this from a national media perspective, and is this the big thing that they want to hear about? Does the national media, who are trying to really take these sound bites and pull whatever sort of concerted storyline they can out of this, is the story of that going to be about the transfer portal and how well Hugh Freeze did, and then wanting to talk to some of those players about that adaptation? Or are they going to want to hear from players that were already here and how those new players are adapting and seeing the difference between those two things? You could get a healthy mix of those both. But it also has to do with what type of thing Auburn wants to put out, right? Do they want to tout this as a transfer location and put transfer portal guys out there and say, hey, you can come straight in and be a guy that we consider to be part of the face of this program? A lot of things can be inferred from who you decide to take to media days because of the national landscape or the national spotlight that's on it. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction they decide to go.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. All right, man. We are going to get out of here. We appreciate you all dropping in with us. Once again, this is sponsored by the Rogue Shop. Make sure you guys head over there. Use code REPORT20. The gummies are going to be popping over there. America's #1 online dispensary is rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT20, 20% off of all of those situations over there. Make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody before you get out of here. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back at you all on Sunday with the weekend tailgate. A lot of different things that we can discuss coming up, and we look forward to discussing it all right here with the family. Until then, and as always, War Eagle, peace.